Hello everyone. I hope everybody's doing good during the lockdown. Anyway, it's a good time to be modeling if you're indoors a lot. Anyway, what I wanted to do is just describe to you the sort of concept of this small layout or diorama, if you want to call it that. So it has the painted backdrop and the small scene with the valance and the shadow box sort of style. So it's probably closer to a diorama than it is an actual traditional model train layout or whatever. With a shelf design, right? Built very lightweight, with just a few. Well, there's 6 turnouts actually, probably more than what you really need on a layout this size at 8 feet by 16. But then again, it depends how much compression you want to use, right? I used quite a bit actually on this, probably more than I would have liked to, because originally I built this model. I scratched this from some photos, quite a few photos I took of the Milner grain elevator, which is kind of historic and an icon in Langley Township. So I'm trying to capture the feel of Glover Road and Crush Crescent and where the grain elevator is and that sort of rural kind of stretch in there. The artistic license I've used is there's like 4 tracks here, and there's a turnout here to service this cold storage, and then we have a small siding here, and then the possibilities of switching out a building down here, which is actually becomes a lead to service the grain elevator and this industry there. So I've compromised here, but you know it adds a little bit of operation if you want to operate. I mean, I'm building this more because I just love to model, and I want to be able to run a couple of locomotives really slow, some highly detailed, painted up, custom stuff that I like to do, and that's kind of what it's about. It's a small stage that I can display my models on. I kind of wish now that I maybe would have not had as many turnouts as I have on it. I have 6, and they all work great, and it functions well as a small operation. But I would have rather have maybe modeled this more prototypically, the grain elevator, because it's just one main line with a siding that services the grain elevator, right? Like these buildings wouldn't be here. But with model railroads, right, we like to compress and include some operation in a lot smaller space. That's the advantage of just the freedom of artistic expression and selective compression, right? So what I want to also do is add some trees, and that's kind of the dilemma that I'm in right now. There really isn't any room for trees. I don't know if that's a subconscious thing because I made so many thousands of trees back in my museum days. I'm just sick of making them, or there's no room. But I actually do want to add some trees. I want to do a sort of a different type of tree construction. This is sort of a knockoff of one of them. I'm not that happy with it. I mean, it's okay, but anyway, I got a bunch of ideas I want to do. But where am I going to put them? Right? There's no room, because this is going to be like a backdrop here with a hedge and that gravel parking lot, where the trucks come in and turn around. But then I'm realizing that because of the depth, maybe I don't need to model that. And I have room for a couple of trees down here. But actually, you know what I decided I'm going to do? Is I'm going to fill this area with trees. Because I want green, I want BC, I want the look. And I'm really keen to model a bunch of evergreen trees, because where I live in a beautiful place with a big stand of Douglas firs and so on, and I want to have that in the model. So I'm going to fill this area with trees. It'll help fill this open negative space here, and I won't have to do really painted backdrop there, which I don't plan to do either. I'd rather just have plain blue. Less is better, as they say. I don't want to paint, mountains or buildings in the background. I want to try to stay away from that completely if I can. I don't mind doing sort of miniature theater flats for backgrounds, but I want to stay with actually painting on the backdrop. I'd rather just go with the pale light blue. So down on this far end, I'm not really sure yet what's happening here. I might change this building. I don't mind the building, but now I'm having second thoughts. I want to build a Surrey Rail Link like their shops. I have loads of photos and research on their locomotive shops, and I love what they do down there, Surrey Rail Link. I mean, they took over, they're basically the 21st century version of British Columbia Hydro Rail, right? They have most of their roster. They've all been rebuilt, I don't know, a dozen times and repainted, and they service the Milner grain elevator, and they own the trackage rights that run through here along with CP and CN. So, and I really like that operation. They were really kind to me years ago. They let me come down there. They took me on a tour of all the major locomotives through the shops, and really nice people, really nice culture. Kind of reminds you of BC Rail culture, which is similar to CN culture too. They're just really people friendly, trained people. And as you can see, I like British Columbia Rail, Canadian National, which is, you know, British Columbia Rail now, and Surrey Rail Link. And they just handle, you know, manifests and cars, a lot from Vancouver Island. They run a barge service out to the island. They have a short line out there, and I like the short line railway. So yeah, so in terms of operation, I can simulate a yard, like this can be a lead on the main. I can switch on to staging a yard from there, a small siding, so I can have a locomotive or two, two MU Lokis here, you know, idling on the side. I can service this cold storage building from this spur down here, which is sort of an engine shed. It would become a switching lead. See, that's the part I don't really like, but oh well, you know. But then I can also switch from this track here, which is like a secondary main, and service this building this way. I can operate like in this direction, or I can switch and operate from this way. So that's why I did what I did. That's the reason for my madness there. We always second guess ourselves, I guess, in this hobby, but I'm pretty happy with it though. And with 6 turnouts, and I can run locomotives DCC with sound, really slow, like prototypical speeds and so forth. And like I say, I really want the, you know, the Glover Road kind of look, even though there's this compromise here, but this iconic landmark will bring strong suggestion to that, and then the terrain and the road. And yeah, so I'm liking it so far. Just there's some decisions I have to make here and down here. And then eventually I'm going to go over another layer or two, because as we all know, you know, model railroading is all about taking your time and putting on layers upon layers upon layers, right? So I'm going to have a lot of taller grass growing here about now June, July, like the grass along, especially out here in Langley. And that's why I love it out here so much. It's just, I can't get it out of my blood anymore. It's just such a beautiful area, especially if people are into trains and just, you know, the kind of rural communities. Anyway, so, and then down here, there's going to be quite a bit of stuff going on down here as well, like crossing gates and so forth, which is sort of like Fort Langley in a way, like this, very similar, this scene here. So it's a lot of the spirit of where I live, you know, this Fort Langley, Langley Township, Surrey Rail Link, Canadian National, you know, which you still see British Columbia rail cars and locomotives as well. Just not too far down the road here, there's a double main, CN double main, and see all kinds of action down there if you're into train spotting. Anyway, that's the quick summary of the direction that I'm going with this little HO scale diorama. Thanks for watching.